American Express. American Express, one of the reasons I like looking at American Express is it tells me a little bit about the economy, how especially business travel and kind of like corporate spend, how is it doing? And if this, when I look at their financials, I'll probably kind of read into some of what they reported and say, this is what's going on in the corporate economy. This is what's going on with business travel. This is what's going on in that area. So the market cap is pretty substantial. One of the famous investors of American Express is Warren Buffett. He's been in it for a long time. 193 billion is the market cap, so it's a pretty good size market cap. Revenue is 59 billion. Net income is there. PE is not too bad, 20 on the current PE, and then the forward PE in 2025 is going to be again 20. Pays a tiny dividend. Analysts believe it's a little overpriced, and today it's fallen down 4%, and now it's 4.45%. So investors didn't like something that they saw in their earnings. Let's take a look at what their earnings had to report, and then I'll come back and show their historic trends. So one thing that I did want to note, I highlighted it in yellow, is in the third quarter, total card member spending increased 6%, and card fee revenue growth accelerated to 18%. We continued to attract large numbers of premium card members with 3.3 million new card acquisitions while maintaining our high retention rates, excellent credit performance, and expense discipline. So in general, that's good. But what I'm reading into is this increase in spend, right? It's another data point that the consumer is in good shape. The consumer has jobs. The credit, I guess, status of these consumers, I'm drawing out of this report that the consumer's in good shape. One more data point. And as I look at other stocks that have tied to that consumer, as I hear the reports that the government puts out on the consumer, as well as American Express, this is more corporate spend. It's showing that corporate spend's increasing, so business travel makes sense that business travel is increasing because now that we're through COVID, maybe sales reps are out visiting customers, maybe projects that were completely put on Zoom are now returning to in-person meetings. And there's a lot more FaceTime that employers want to have. And that coincides with a story that I noticed, which was over at Amazon, the AWS head, they've mandated a 5 days in the office work week to go back to regular times before COVID. And they're really insisting on that. So that's, again, driving a lot of in-person. And if a person needs to travel to meet with either their coworkers or meet with a partner, a customer, a supplier, then they're going to have to stay somewhere in a hotel and spend on the road. And that tends to be American Express like business. So interesting data point that I drew out. Now, the market, I think, was expecting a much better report. I think the report was very good. It's a healthy business. And when we look at their historic, trends, the revenue growth has been there for American Express. It's quite impressive. Of course, during COVID, there wasn't a lot of travel. So their spend went down substantially, right? Their revenue, I should say, went down. But they bounced back quite quickly. Boom. They went down. They went from 10 billion, and then they grew nicely in the following year, and they've continued to grow. Now they're substantially bigger than they were before. So they were, before COVID, they were roughly a $40 billion company. COVID hit, they went down to 31 billion. And then they've been growing since then. So that's really, really good. That's a sign of a strong business, their revenue growth. And the stock price was pretty much consistent with that growth. Look at their stock price, 132% upside. Very good. For the last year, it's really worked, 78%. Phenomenal. That's a really nice graph. Now, is the stock a little too expensive? Potentially. It might just be too expensive. It's had a very good run. It's got a lot of that good fundamental data priced into the stock. And maybe investors are thinking, maybe American Express kind of hit their limit. Maybe they're not going to grow much more beyond this. Maybe there's concerns that they're going to the revenue is going to flatten out. And they're not going to be as prosperous going forward. It's one day, but it's their earnings day. And the stock is beginning to settle down. I don't know that it's screaming at me saying it's a big opportunity to buy into this stock. I don't see that. I would say that their fundamentals look really strong. Their revenue, I showed you that they're growing their revenue really nice. When I look at their free cash flow, it's also very strong. You're going from 12 billion pre-COVID up to 17 billion in 2023. That's a strong free cash flow number. I would value the company based on their growth rate and their free cash flow upwards of like 200, 240 billion, which leaves some room for some upside, action. But I would say not enough. I'm a little concerned overall with the American Express business because I think that that's a very historic legacy business that could be disrupted. It could be disrupted by a lot of these trends to go to a lot of direct payment, like Venmo and the PayPal's and Stripes and all these um, different companies are beginning to have more direct payment, methods, and I'm leaving a lot of them off. As those disruptors become successful, it's eroding the market share and it be making American Express less relevant. American Express is a concept that's been around for 100 years and they charge a lot of fees to use their network. Right now it's working, but does it have a good 10 year, path forward? That's where I would be most nervous is American Express going to be disrupted at some point and become less relevant? Their revenues will drop, their profits will drop, and then investors will be left holding the bag. I've never been in love with American Express for that reason. I'd rather go to the part of the market that competes and is more of the leader in innovations, the leader in ideas, really expanding their marketplace. So I like PayPal. I like companies like Robinhood that are taking on the market and really picking a place where they can disrupt and really grow that space, really do things in a different way that fits the way consumers and businesses want to run. The whole buy now, pay later model is now really taking shape and getting established. I think Upstart and a couple of others, those stocks have really rallied because the consumer's doing well, so the write-offs will be lower and interest rates are going down. Those two things help those new innovative companies that are buy now, pay later like companies. Again, that's kind of eroding some of the market share of the American Express, Visa, and other companies that would have probably been used to buy a big purchase, to buy a $3,000 item, and then they paid off, when they get the bill. Instead, now somebody's doing a buy now, pay later program, and it's a direct transaction with the retailer or e-tailer, and they're able to buy that good. So it's interesting to see American Express. I think it's a vote that the economy is doing well, that the consumer is doing well. American Express may be a little expensive, and analysts are pretty accurate in their observation that, hey, the price may be a little too expensive and it should be toned down a bit. Everybody, welcome. Want to invite you to become a community member. Sign up, become a part of the community, and get more involved. We're going to have the first workshop tomorrow, and it's going to be a workshop to go over a few, I think, good areas of knowledge and maybe help investors maybe look at financials a little better, maybe just kind of share examples of financials and go through them. To get to know a company is to get to know their financials. So I think that's always a good place to start. And each week we're going to be having just workshops, and it's going to be driven by member request. Like, what do you want to go over this week? It will be the topics. Then on Sundays we do an investor call, which is good, healthy exchange of knowledge, ideas, what's going on, what's working, what's not working, type of conversation. If you want to be involved with that, become an advanced investor and you will be a part of it. So look for more details in the description of the live stream.